Okay, so like I mentioned before, we're talking today about exercise techniques, and let's roll right into it, into workout station number 1. This was what I mentioned before. We're going to go through technique execution, common mistakes, and then coaching cues. So workout station number 1 is the SKIERG, and I'm just going to play just a tiny video so everybody sees what the workout looks like. So you can see one of our athletes here. That's actually Rebecca Meta. She's, I think, 8th in the world ranking. So it's basically a movement that mimics the skiing. So what we want is we want a hip width stance on the platform and typically on the rear end. And then the athlete grabs the handles, and we want to see as much as of an extension of the arms as possible. So you can see that here. So it's a nice wide opening, and then she pulls down. And as she gets the resistance from the arms, she uses her upper body for support while hinging back and also using her legs. So it's kind of a quarter squat. And then she'll finish the pull with a long pull at the end. So she's really, So she's really using the entire range of motion here. So what are the common, what are the common mistakes that we see in this exercise? That would be no full extension of the hips and shoulders. So they don't fully open up. When they do the quarter squat, the knees go inwards. That's also called knee valgus. And then also there's a lot of athletes, especially male athletes, they're very upper body dominant. So they're going to rely on their arm strength. So they're going to pull with their arms and not using their entire body. Some athletes have a round back, and that's also not good. And when we coach this, we're coaching, we're telling them, oh my God, hang on here. It's just gonna be a little bit until I figure it out. Whoop. All right. So what we're telling them when we're coaching to tell the athlete, you use your full range of motion, fully extend to the top, and then pull and use your legs and upper body. So complete extension for a more effective pulling. And then use your upper body. So really lean into it with your upper body so you can kind of give your arms a break. And then as you do that, it's kind of like at one point, it looks like a little bit of a deadlift because your back should remain straight. And as you drive your arms close to your body, you'll finish the move and have a nice solid movement, and you can use your legs with this. And then at the end, you can also check for breathing. So whenever the athlete goes up, they exhale, they exhale. And then they inhale, and then as they pull it down, they exhale. So whenever they hit resistance, they exhale. So that will be coaching cues you can tell your athletes. Mainly, I would say the most common ones is that they don't use their upper body and legs enough. So make sure they really lean into these pulls. Okay, the second workout station is the sled push. Just a quick reminder what the sled push looks like. So Rebecca here again, she's pushing the sled with straight arms. So when you start pushing the sled, you kind of have like a staggered stance, and then you hold onto your handles with either, like Rebecca here, arms straight and locked out, or sometimes with bent arms. That's both fine. And then you'll initiate the movement by pushing and starting. And then while you keep pushing, it doesn't matter if you have your arms extended or your arms bent, you want to keep that a tight core and that tension in the core, because that essentially transfers to the sled. As also, if you have an athlete that hasn't done the sled before, make sure they control their breathing, because it is kind of like a horrible exercise, because it works your lungs and legs at the same time. So what are the common mistakes we see in athletes? So they don't have enough core tension that transfers into a round back. So we'll tell them to, straighten your back. And then we also don't have enough power transmission from legs to core. because the arms are not entirely locked out. So that's very important. If they have their arms straight, they should always lock them out. And then this is something we see at the competition a lot, because the sled is so heavy, and we have a very unique setting at the competitions where we're having, instead of turf, we're having carpet. And so that somehow makes the sled extremely heavy. So you really need to have a good pair of shoes. What we recommend is shoes that have laces. So there's some, the new shoes that you just slip in and they don't have laces or a tongue. So you want to have a good pair of shoes that has a good grip. So anything that is like a cross trainer, it works really well. And so that's you just got to make sure you have good shoes on there. And then the coaching cues would be, because the sled is so special, frequently incorporate this into your training, because your body needs to get accustomed to the sled. Because I've had athletes doing sleds for the first time, and they just completely collapse because their metabolism can't take it, or they throw up or something. It's really that bad if you start off too quick and too heavy. So just make sure to slowly introduce them to the sled. And then also, what really is important is that they have an explosive start when they want to push the heavy sled at HYROX. So that's something you can practice too with your athletes. And also, this got better only one time this time. And then also exhale while you initially push. All right, let's move on to the sled pull. So the sled pull is performed standing, and as you can see here, this is just a really short snippet. She pulls it with her entire body, so she uses her legs too. It's not just an upper body movement. So in the competition, the sled pull has to be executed standing, and then it's really up to the athlete. But usually it's best if you grab the rope with both hands and initiate the pull, and then usually it's like left pull, right pull, but that's really a technique that's up to the athlete. And then your feet have to stay behind the lines at all times. You cannot step over those lines. I'm gonna pause this. Okay, what are the common mistakes for the sled push? This is the most important one: no hip extension. Athletes want to pull this rope. Again, I'm not, mostly male athletes do this just because they have so much upper body strength. They try to pull this entirely with their upper body. So make sure that you teach the hip extension while you coach the sled push. I'm sorry, pull, it's supposed to be pull. And then also, again, not enough core tension, because that causes a round back, or even, that's injury prevention as well, to always keep core tension. And then if you don't use your hips, you don't have enough power transmission from your hips to your cores, eventually to your arms, and that makes it less effective. And then also you lose the tension in the rope. So this is just something you really have to practice. And again, just with the sled push, try to incorporate, because this is not your everyday movement, try to incorporate this every now and then so they get accustomed to it. If you don't have a sled available, you can take the rope and then tie it to kettlebells, or to a sandbag or some kind of weight, or just a plate, and then have them pull this. And if it's not heavy enough, they can practice the sitting first, and then you can move on to heavier weights and have them do that standing. And again, practice full hip extension when pulling, long pulls, and then also when you train, make your athletes train both sides. And then when the competition day comes, it doesn't matter, adrenaline kicks in, they might only pull with their good strong side, that's fine, but when you train them, have them pull left and right, just for symmetry reasons. And yeah, that will be the sled pull. So after the sled pull, the next workout session will be burpee broad jumps. So basically this is a burpee. You perform a regular burpee, and then you have to jump as far as you can, and then you have to do it all over again. So the athlete starts behind the line in an upright position, and then they place their hand close to their feet, until they're in a plank position, and then they lower their body down until the chest touches the floor, then they push themselves up, and then it's jumping with both feet at the same time, jump and landing with both feet at the same time, and then try to cover as much distance as possible, because in this workout station, it's 8 meters in total. So you want to cover as much meters as you can with the jump. So the common mistakes for the burpees are the body loses tension. So this is like, it looks like a snake from the side. So when the athlete goes down to drop for the burpee, they lose tension, and this causes, you know, strain on the lower back. So their hips drop basically. And for the jump, if you don't use, again, that full hip attention for the frontal jump, you're not covering as much meters as you want. And then they're not landing on their entire foot when they jump back from the push-up position. And I'm talking now when they're at the bottom position of the burpee and they jump back with their hands. You can see this in most athletes. They land with their tippy toes. So what this causes is, again, a strain on your knee. So you want them to land with the entire foot, and you can just give them a cue by, you know, landing with wider feet. So that usually does the trick. And when you have an athlete and you're coaching this movement, so to prevent the hips to drop, you know, just focusing on, like, have them do like a slow motion burpee and have them focusing on that transitioning position. So they actually focus on holding a plank before they transition up or down. So that just gives them more attention to their lower back, and that helps them, you know, engage the area. And like I said, with the landing on the tippy toe earlier, you know, just have them position their legs a little wider so they can land on their whole foot. And if they can't fully extend their hip, then have them use their arms, just like, you know, kids when they jump, or the long jump, basically you use your arms, and whenever you use your arms, the focus goes a little bit away from the hip, and then they naturally open up the hip because it's a natural movement. You could also practice box jumps or something, or just jumping in general, so they can get aware of how they open their hip. That'll be something too. Okay, so after the burpee broad jump, we have rowing. And I'm sure you all know how to row, but this is also something so simple as rowing has the most misconceptions for a lot of people, because, again, people think rowing is arm dominated, or basically, you know, pull just from their arms. But if you look at it a little bit, can't really see it that good. Let me see if I can find something. Here, you can see this here. Just look at the legs. Go back. If you look at the legs, it's actually a little squat. Yeah, let me go back. So if you look sideways, he's doing a squat. So what I mean by this is, when you row, have your athletes not only pull with their arms, but also use their legs, meaning, you know, drive through your heels, because that'll give you that extra push from that rowing. So this is what it essentially says here. So initiate the drive or the stroke on the rower with your legs first, and then your arms and upper body follow. Because if you look at him here, he's having this handle here, but the legs are first. So you want to push with that leg, and as soon as the handle crosses your knee, you can use your arms, meaning you pull with your arms, and then your lower back. And then your upper body. So as you would go back, you would lean forward, your upper body first, then your arms, and then your legs, in that order, if that makes sense. So and a lot of mistakes, and I'm sorry, we'll be there on the next page, but what else he means, he's doing is, when the drive is finished, he's preparing for the catch first with his arms, then his body, and then his legs. That's what I just said. So it's that order. When he starts the movement, let me see again. When he starts the movement, he starts with his legs. It's just a tiny movement. He starts with his legs first and then his arms, but when he goes back, it's his body, arms, and then legs. So let's move on to the common mistakes, which we covered here. So this would be pulling too much and too early with your arms. This is like a really, you really have to look closely, because sometimes you cannot really tell, but and having your athlete do that a couple of times, you'll be able to tell, and then you'll be able to tell if he's pulling too much and too early from his arms. And another thing that's interesting is if the rush is not, or it's a rushed stroke, so he or she is doing it too quick. Like you might have seen an athlete on the rower, and they're like super hectic, kind of like they're in a race or something, which they probably are, but it's not effective, because if you think about it, if you're on a rower, it's supposed to mimic a boat on water. So if you're on a boat, you're not doing it super quick, right? You're making a stroke, and then you're kind of like waiting for the water to come with you, and then you're initiating the stroke again. And that's exactly what happens on the rower too. So you don't have to rush your strokes. You'll get the same amount if you go a little bit more with the flow. Jeez. So again, this stroke is not full if you don't reach full extension of your knees, and this is really easy for you guys to see if your athlete extends his knees or her knees or not. And then another thing is some athletes have a really round back and they can't maintain that natural lumbar curve. So look, that's something that's very common in athletes too. So what are your coaching cues? So ask for a large range of motion, complete knee extension, which equals the effective stroke, and try to train those long strokes with short breaks at the end to make the stroke more effective. And I want to go back to the video because he's actually doing this there. So watch for his first stroke. It's really, stop. Did you see that pause there? He did a small pause. Let's see again. So he's pulling, stop, and then he's initiating. He's even doing a super long pause. So, but that's for some, it's very effective because it's actually catching that momentum that's still while the rower is still going. Okay, so use your legs more to relieve your arms. That's something we talked about before. So it's like initially a squat. So drive through your heels, and then your arms, and then your upper body. And try to maintain that back straight in every position so you don't get a round back. And just like with a SKIERG, try to keep your arms as close to your body as possible for the stroke. And this goes for the SKIERG. It's the same as for the SKIERG. When you go forward, you inhale, and as you stroke, you exhale. So whenever there's resistance, you exhale.
Mintra.
Yes.
Graham, could I just step in, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. I just want to ask if anyone has up to now any questions, particularly around rowing, because I do think that quite often rowing is the one where people tend to have different techniques, don't they? And you know what I mean? Especially if you go in a CrossFit box. I used to go to one, and there was one guy who was an ex-Olympic rower. So obviously he was the guy you listened to, but there were still others who had a different technique, and yet he was always clearly the best on the rower. You know what I mean? So has anyone any thoughts, any questions up to now on what you've heard? Nothing? Okay.
And I know it's a lot to take in, and we're kind of like, but some questions might come later, so I'm always happy to answer them. So
thank you.
Something pops up.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to farmer's carry. Again, this is also one of those movements that everyone can do, and it's kind of fairly overlooked, but there's some small things that you can do to make it more effective and essentially save some energy for the last 2 workouts. So, you know, here you see, obviously he has a straight back when he walks, and as he puts them down and picks them up. So it's essentially a deadlift, and he uses his legs, and then he walks, and notice there's no swing of the kettlebell whatsoever. So it's very controlled. So some might say there's no swing because he's, you know, doesn't walk that fast, but still this is a 32 kg kettlebell, and this is super heavy, but he does have the strength to go faster. He just has his core tight. That's why his arms doesn't swing, and that's why the kettlebell doesn't move. So if you start this movement in a competition, place one kettlebell left and right of your feet, and then you bend forward, you know, essentially doing a deadlift, pick it up, and then use your legs and keep your back straight and your core tight when you lift the kettlebells and walk. And so common mistakes in this are the upper traps are engaged in this exercise. So what you'll see is people are super like uptight in their traps, and this is not the exercise. You don't want to use your traps. All you want to do is you want to keep that chest nice and open and your arms straight, and then have a good grip on the kettlebell and keep your core tight. And that's what the exercise is supposed to be. You don't need that extra tension in your traps. Also, some athletes have their arms bent. That's also unnecessary energy. You don't have to have your arms bent because that's tension on your muscle. Obviously, you can't really lock them out, but you want to have like a natural, and you just want to hold them basically. Like you would hold your groceries, but you're not holding your grocery bag with a bent arm, right? So, and then the last common mistakes I mentioned was your arms swing when you walk, or the weight touches your thighs, and that's basically because you can't, or your athlete can keep, you know, core tension, and that's something you can train with them. You know, have them start at a lighter weight, correct their postures, and then move up your weights, move up with the weights, and then the arms won't swing anymore. So a coaching cue I like to give is your arms are hooks. So your arms act like hooks. You know, don't use your traps, just hooks. And then the movement really only comes from your legs. So your upper body is pretty much straight and tight, and then your legs move, and then you can even run. If it's super tight and you have control, then you could run, and they won't swing. All right, back to rowing. No, joke. Okay, so the 6th workout in the HYROX competition is the sandbag lunge, and this is actually, so you lift up the sandbag by yourself. No one is allowed to help you, and then you place it on your back here, and then you start lunging. And every time you lunge, the back knee has to touch the ground, and as you stand up, your legs have to extend, and then you can move on with the lunge. So you can lunge either continuously, or you can stop after each lunge, and then your lunges obviously have to be alternating. You can't just do left lunge, stop, left lunge, stop. They have to be alternating, and your hips and knees must be fully extended before you switch legs. So coaching cues for that. Common mistakes for that. So a lot of athletes have an unstable front knee, and what I mean by that is when they do the lunge, the knee either goes in or out, or it shakes. So, and you simply don't want that, because it puts, again, a lot of strain on your knee if it's not stable. And a good way to train that would be just, you know, to go down on the weight and not go with the lunge so deep. So the athlete learns to control their knee. And then another thing is the rear knee does not touch the floor, because they can't touch the floor because they don't have that range of motion yet. And that would be something you would work on with them. And then no full hip extension, and that's just laziness. There's no good excuse for not fully extending your hips. So coaching cues. When the front knee is unstable, you know, lower the weight. If you have to, start with body weight, or less deep lunges, or use one of those HYROX. So make an unstable ground so they can learn to control their knee. And another coaching cue would be stop after each lunge, even after in the competition. That is just saves you energy and helps you relieve your muscles really briefly. So that would be two things you could tell them when they're doing these mistakes. Okay, and then the last exercise is the wall ball. So the wall ball looks like this. I'm sure you know what the wall ball looks like. So you're hitting a target with a ball, and at the bottom position you do a deep squat. And so when you do this with your athlete, you probably do this at a rig or a wall. So place them 1 arm's length away from the wall or the rig. That's usually a good length away for every athlete. And then they have to pick up the ball from the floor and stand up first. And that's when the movement begins. And then they can initiate the wall ball. So then they do the squat, and then they throw the ball at the target when they stand back up. So they're essentially using momentum. Again, they catch the ball afterwards, and then they repeat the movement. And a lot of things you see in athletes is they would stand too close or too far away from the wall or the rig, and what that causes is they don't have a good throw. So they'll either throw not hitting the target, or they'll throw not below the target because, you know, it's not a good angle. So tell them to go 1 arm length away. And when they're squatting, usually, and this is what we see a lot in the competitions, the hips just simply don't go parallel because they can't squat below parallel. Or the knees rotate again, knee valgus, and or upper body leans forward, or they don't use their hip movement, so it's not explosive, or they're just throwing the ball using the arms only. And I would add another point here, actually, that would be they can't make that continuous movement because they're just not used to the movement. So coaching cues would be they need to readjust their position to the wall. So meaning what we said, 1 arm length away. And when they set up, they should keep, when they hold the ball in the front front rack position, sorry, they just put their arms and elbows under the ball with the body, with an upright upper body, and this helps them with if they have their arms underneath the ball. That this simply helps with stability. This also prevents them a little bit from leaning forward. So, and then when they squat and then they don't have that drive, you tell them to drive through your heels when squatting, meaning they're at the bottom position of the squat, and then you want them to come up quick. So you tell them to drive up from their heels, use that momentum. And when they, I'm sorry, what was this? When they're, what was the last point that I added? That was they're not throwing, oh yeah, they can't do a continuous movement. If they can't do that yet, then break the movement up to simply a throw and a squat. So have them do a squat, stand and rest, and then throw. And that's totally fine because that's essentially a wall ball, just not quick. And this is allowed at the competition as well. And then they'll catch on to it, they get used to the movement, and then they'll be able to like throw and catch and then simultaneously go up and down. And when they, what we see a lot is that they just, you know, do 20 wall balls unbroken, and then they can't keep up. So just when you're coaching them, tell them to split up their repetitions, clever. So give them a rep scheme that they should do continuously. Is that start with 5 and then move up to 10, perhaps 15. So they'll do 5, they do 3 quick breaths, and they do another 5. And so that way they continually be moving instead of, you know, busting 20 out and then they have to rest a minute until they can do another 10 or 5, you know? So that's kind of like how you can train them. And if you have a wall or you're actually at the rig during breaks, and I know this might sound small, but this is just really saving energy. Pinch the ball between your body and the rig while you're resting, because then you don't have to pick it back up from the ground. It's just as easy. It's all about saving that little bit of energy you got left and getting one more rep. So sometimes this helps. And yeah, this is pretty much it. I know this was a lot. Some of the stuff you probably heard before, but this is basically what we coach when we do our training, our coaching academies. So we'll go through the common mistakes, and then we give them the coaching cues. And basically, just by doing this a couple of times, you'll know where to look for, what to look for, and then how to correct that in your athletes. And that would be it. That's the last station. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mintra. Just to stress to everyone that if you're a coach and you're coaching one of your members, one of your clients to compete at HYROX, let's say at HYROX Manchester or Birmingham next year, this technique, this movement that you've taught everybody today is vital, isn't it? It's very, very important, because if your technique is wrong, you lose points in effect, don't you, Mintra? That's basically it.
Yeah, basically, if you're well, you not first of all, if your technique is wrong, you're losing your energy. You're giving up your energy that you have to have, because it's like the average athlete takes 90 minutes, so you constantly have to re-energize your body. But really, in some, especially for the wall balls, you'll get no reps, so you'll lose points. And the burpee broad jumps, you'll get SANDBAGs, you get a penalty for that, same as the SANDBAG lunges. And really for the rowing and the SKIERG, it's just about saving your energy. And the same goes for the sled push and pull. You want to be as effective as possible.
Thank you. Karen McIntyre, you had a question for Mintra, didn't you?
Yeah, it was just about how high up the rig is, the target on the rig.
So the female target is 2.70 meters. And so that's 9 feet. And then the male target is 3 meters. That's 10 feet.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you want it when you throw the ball, you want to hit above the target. So if you hit the target, that really depends on the judge, but it's technically a no rep. So you want to be above the target.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mintra. Any other questions? Anyone else? Anyone need any more HYROX information before we finish?
Yeah, let me go ahead and stop my screen here. There we go.
Thank you, Mintra. But thank you ever so much. That was really good.
Can I just ask something, Graham?
Of course.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry,
Okay.
in the competitions, is it the same sort of exercises each time? So what's the normal format? So as in distance of runs or the farmers walks?
Yeah. So basically, I'm sorry, I didn't cover this. I didn't think this was.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
It might have been in a different one. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a great question. So the order of events are like I showed them. So it starts off with a 1,000-meter SKIERG, then note you run a 1K before each exercise. So you run 1K and then it's a 1,000-meter SKIERG. You run another K, then it's 2 times 25 meters sled push. Then you run 1K, it's 2 times 25 meters sled pull. You run 1K and then it's 80 meters burpee broad jumps. You run 1K and you do 1,000 meters rowing. You run another K and then you do 200 meters farmer's carry. You run 1K and do 100 meters sandbag lunges. And then you run 1K and you finish it off with 100 wall balls. Yay! So it's probably, I mean, it's really hard, but it's also so much fun. There's different categories for everyone. So we have And then we always obviously have this doubles division where you can double up with a team member, and then you can split, you know, the distances and the reps, except for the running. But if you don't want to see the weights and stuff, just go to HYROX.com, and there's all the weights and distances on the website.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you, Mintra. I love the way you said it's so much fun.
Well, it is not while you're doing it, but I mean, honestly, it's just the greatest things when you run through the finish line, and then basically the energy. And I think we all miss competing, right? And it's just awesome.
Yeah.
I realized how much I loved it when you can't do it, right?
It really gives people a purpose to train, doesn't it? That's the thing. It gives you a goal rather than just training. So,
yes, finally you can, and then there's always like people who, especially female athletes, they say, oh, I'm not strong enough, I can't do this and stuff, but we've actually had like a university, a bunch of students here in Hamburg. They came up with like a mini study, and they found out that you don't have to be super strong. Like HYROX doesn't favor the super strong athlete or the runner. So it's really all about the combination of both. So you can be, strong, but then you actually can run so good, but you want to make your points with the stuff that requires strength, and then vice versa. And at the end, it's still a good mix.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, Mintra, thank you ever so much. That was really good. Thanks
for having me.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your time. That's all. Say thank you to Mintra, please.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.